Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. The Compassion for a Child. Written by Random 3X. I looked down from my throne room, watching the day's events go by. The usual requests and such. I grant the more reasonable ones, such as lowering of taxes for grains to increase food for the common folk. Others I reject, like forging a ring to rule them all. I already rule all. Why do I need a ring for that? It is when we get to the latter part of the day, where the common folk who have gone through the procedures to make requests much like their lords. Sometimes it is simple as just being granted an audience. Sometimes it is a report of a noble for corrupt behavior. Others still wish to interview me for school projects. I'll be honest, I do enjoy those. So when the first I saw the child step forward from the queue, I thought not too much on the matter. It must have been a student with the research, someone you idolize. I prepared myself to give magnanimous acceptance when they spoke. Mr. Dark Lord, I gestured to the guards to ignore the impropriety. I always try to instill in my guards not to make mistake manners with what can easily be attributed to ignorance. Regardless, I tried my best to lessen my battle presence so the child could speak freely. Mr. Dark Lord, I challenge you to a duel to the death, the child announced, drawing a magically conjured blade from the air. This was not my first time seeing the technique, though it is the first with someone so young. Pardon? I asked, completely bewildered. I will strike you down and bring peace to the world. The child, that I can now clearly see as a girl, doesn't falter, even when my guards hold the spear to her neck. Or are you so scared that you won't face me? Her sly smirk held the promise of a nightmarish teenager she would no doubt become. However, I could only exhale a deep sigh. I am not in the business of fighting kids to the death. I gestured with my hand for my guards to stand down. Even now, it is clear how outclassed she is. You scared? No, not scared. More of a moral issue, really. Tell you what, though, we can have a sparring match. If you do happen to accidentally kill me, well, it happens. I offer the child, who readily accepts. The court watching this was shocked I had accepted. I could have crushed her without even twitching a muscle. My guards could have easily run her through, but I felt more of a need to find out why she was here. Rising from my throne, I led the way to the courtyard where we would spar. Let me ask you, why do you wish to kill me? Surely I haven't done something to you or your family. I asked conversationally as we walked side by side while the courtiers followed. She seemed rather bashful now. The High Bishop said that I was the chosen one, and that I would be destined to save the world. So they shipped me here to kill you for being an inhuman monster. I paused mid-step for a second before continuing. I was shocked to my core to think that the theocracy would do such a thing. Also, did they really think I wasn't human? Sure, I had risen to rule the Dark Continent, but any sufficiently skilled being could do that. Regardless, I couldn't help but press further. What are you, 12? They would give you the so-called Chosen One title to one as young and innocent as you. And they call me evil and barbaric. I'm 13. She seemed indignant at not being referred to as a teenager. Regardless, it seems needless to send a child assassin to kill me. At the very least, did they trade you? Nah. I manifested the sword first out of all the street urchins, and they sent me here. Her explanation broke my heart. Arriving in the courtyard, I stood opposite her, hands empty. You gonna draw a weapon? She seemed rather sporting for a child assassin. No, this is fine. I want to make this as easy as possible for you. I shrugged as I stood ramrod straight, hands behind my back, waiting for her to strike. You may begin when the handkerchief lands on the ground. The chief chamberlain's words echoed around the courtyard. Holding this piece of cloth aloft, he released it. Watching it flutter to the ground, I waited, The moment it touched, I released my full battle presence. The girl was already midway across the yard at that point, an impressive feat in and of itself. But now she felt the full brunt of how dangerous I was. In the few seconds that followed, everything seemed to slow. I could see it. The blood vanished from her face, the terror grew as she tried to stop her charge. But it was too late. Her momentum was far too great. Finally, her eyes rolled to the back of her head as she collapsed unconscious. "Get the physician to check her. She'll now be a ward of mine." My announcement was met with apathy more than any other emotion from the courtiers. "Another stray assassin to adopt, sire. You know one of these days that compassion will get you killed," the Chamberlain said, sidling up next to me. "I don't doubt it will, but to die due to compassion is a far better way to go than most." End of story. Story number 2. Memento Mori, written by Teller of Tall Tales. I couldn't peel my eyes off the stuffed animal strapped to the human's armor. It looked like an earth lion, the mane matted with blood. As we sat in our trench, waiting for the whistle, I struck up a conversation with the human. I asked him why he had a stuffed toy strapped to his armor. A soft expression came to his eyes as he gently touched the top of the toy's head before speaking. Memento Mori, an old human phrase. It means to remember that you must die. Maybe not now, but eventually. He fell quiet again, stroking the small stuffed animal, a soft, sad smile on his face. His words, however, had horrified me. How do you walk around a war zone with a talisman of your own death? I have, to borrow another phrase the humans taught me, suck-started my Mauser. There was a call by the trench commander, and the human donned his helmet, affixing a blade to the end of his firearm, and stood on one of the benches, poking from the muddy walls. I saw him give the lion a squeeze. Then the commander blew his whistle, and over the edge we went. The carnids were moving straight at us as well, faster than I could ever hope to run in all the opposite direction. They resembled Earth's praying mantis, if the praying mantis was 11 feet tall and had a carapace as hard as forged steel. The human opened fire still a few dozen yards away, tungsten penetrators ripping through a brightly colored Praetorian. There was no anger, just a serene expression of peace on that soft, gently rounded face. We hit the carnids halfway across no man's land. One immediately swiped at me as I aimed for its compound eyes before pulling the trigger on my laser rifle, burning the eyes from the sockets and sending the carnid reeling back. But not for long as it lurched forward, a massive scythe-like claw smashing into my armor, knocking the breath from my lungs as I was thrown to the ground. Dazed, I tried to crawl away as the carnid drew closer, closing in for the kill. Accepting my fate, I rolled over and gazed at the two sights raised over me like death himself had been incarnate. Wham! Some insane or perhaps brave soldier had tackled the carnid off its four spindly legs and was thrashing with it on the ground, a folding military shovel rising and falling in a chopping motion as I caught a glimpse of the stuffed lion. The human wailed on the carnid, those scythe-like claws flailing inches away from the human sides and back. With the mighty two-handed swing, the entrenching shovel was brought down on the carnid's face, making it spasm and finally go limp. The human turned. I tried to scream a warning, but it was too late as the carnid rose behind him, a mandible and antennae missing. The scythe-like claw sliced through the human's armor like a hot knife through butter, impaling him through the chest and ripping a strap that held the lion in place. The human looked surprised a moment at the massive claw in his chest, then that horrible, peaceful smile as he coughed up blood. He grabbed the blast spear from his belt and armed it, letting his thumb slide off the button. More carnids were approaching, drawn to the scent of fresh blood as the human was lifted higher off the ground. The human said something, lips moving silently at this distance before a flash of light and the crash of explosion enveloped him and the carnids. The only thing left behind being cinders, ash, and the stuffed lion with something poking out the back of it. I crawled a few arm lengths through the mud and picked up the lion, slowly removing the glossy bit of paper from the pocket in the back. It was a photograph. The human, his arms wrapped around a smiling female human. The female's arms wrapped around a human child. The child's arms wrapped around a small, stuffed lion. Written at the bottom was 5 dates in galactic standard format and a note. 2/5/2155, 25/7/2156 to 11/3/2185, 9/11/2180 to 11/3/2185. Remember what they took from you. Remember what they took from them! Memento Mori. Your day will come! End of story. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, it's difficult to pronounce, Lord Arishakal, Dragzoon, WRE, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.